Well, I was born in Buffalo, New York, October the 6th, 1933, the eighth child of Ernest and Isabell McGriff, who migrated here from Lancaster, South Carolina, on their way to Detroit for my father to get a job. He stopped here to see his sister, and 11 children later, then they remained in Buffalo. The grammar school I went to was School 12, and I've always, well, no, I'll say that I was brought up in a Christian home with a father who was determined for us to be of service to our community and to mankind. I used to wake up in the morning and there would be, we called them bums at the time, but there would be a Caucasian person sitting at the table where my father had fixed some breakfast. Always, my mother would always say, "Dad, why are you letting strangers in the house?" And he would say, "I've got all these children, and if they ever travel, I want somebody to set them at their table." So with that kind of upbringing, he always taught us to hold our head high, look everyone in the eye, be afraid of no one but our God. I grew up in St. Luke's Church, Michigan and Eagle. It is now Durham Memorial Church, and I am now the mother of the church. I am the oldest member of that church. I've always been a person, a people person. I was an advocate always of, I wouldn't say the underdog, but underprivileged people, people that needed attention. My father used to always say that there's enough talkers in the world, there's enough doers, but listeners are needed. You need to listen to people. So I did a lot of that. I was a champion of children, of young people that came from the South up north on vacation. And if they talked different than we did, and you laughed at them, then the tomboy came for you, and that was me. I was an advocate of always someone who was being picked on. Like I said, I was active in, I could outshoot any boy, jump roofs, ride a bike backwards and everything. But at the age of 13, I saw this young man walking down my neighborhood street, and I had the urge to put on lipstick. Now, that was my future husband, who we married at 18 and 19. We were married 60 years, and he passed away in 2011. We had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. Well, the most significant, I think, was at 42 years old, I was asked to join the Harriet Tubman 300s, with Harriet Tubman, who owned a property in Auburn, New York, and who left that property to the Amy Zion Church, which I am a member of. So that's where I had Sunday school. So when Lula Williams, who was Bishop Williams' wife, she was assigned to build a library up in Auburn, New York. And she contacted Earlene Collier, who was one of the Bronze Damsels, which was a renowned club in Buffalo. She got Earlene Collier to reach out to ladies in the community. And I was asked by Vernette Patterson to join. And at 42 years old, I joined the Harriet Tubman 300s in 1976. I am the 6th-time president as of now. I am the oldest member now of the Harriet Tubman 300s. Cleo Alexander was our eldest member who died 2 years ago at the age of 100. So we're one of, other than the Mary B. Talbot group, we're one of the oldest cultural groups in Buffalo.
And what do you do?
We do scholarships. We search out families and young people who need our attention, and to teach about Harriet Tubman. I find it interesting that now even there are people in their 50s that they don't know about Harriet Tubman. So as we are stewards of her legacy. Oh, I'll say in 2004, I had breast cancer, and I'm a survivor. 2008, I lost my daughter, who was ill but didn't suffer. As a matter of fact, all my siblings got sick and left. One right after the other, but they didn't suffer. And as I say, my father taught us about life and death. He called it the dash. The life, the dash, death. The dash was what you do between and how you live your life. So he says that whenever you were called home or whenever you got sick, it's the way you lived that you didn't have to suffer. And they didn't. They got sick and they left. 2022, I developed bladder cancer. And I'm a survivor of that, but I'm on a mission now because when I achieved bladder cancer, I found out that a person of my age, there's questions to be asked. We are a trusting culture. If the doctor says we need our bladder removed and we're not having the symptoms that they say we should have, then we need to question, why would I was told that I was in such good shape, why wouldn't I want my bladder removed? And I said, if I was in such good shape, why would I want it removed? So I refused, and then I found out from this doctor's nurse that she wished her mother had spoken up like I had because her bladder was removed at the age of 57. So now I'm talking maybe twice a month to ladies 80 and up, whoever, when I get a call, to say that it's all right to question the doctor. It's all right to get a second opinion always. I think I got that history of being like that from working at the Buffalo General Hospital for 42 years. I started there, I went there with a girlfriend to pick up her check. The supervisor in nursing asked me, did I like people? I said, I did. Would you like a job? And so 42 years later, I was there. I ended up working 38 years in a department of medicine that's run by doctors, not under nursing. And I traveled teaching heart disease, angiograms, putting a catheter in the heart to take pictures of the interior of the heart. So I retired from that. Came home, my husband had taken over the vacuum cleaner and the kitchen and everything, so I sat looking at television, and I saw on television where a child had been left on the school bus, and I couldn't understand how that could happen. So I applied for being a bus aide. I found out how a child could get left on the bus because those aides are young. They're a lot like the students. And there's a thing called the walk. You take a walk from the front of the bus to the back, you look under the seats, and this wasn't always done. So I ended up training the aides. I got an award for doing a Heimlich maneuver. I spoke at a couple of, pardon me, at a couple of sessions. I ended up in the union. I was really interested in changing the way the system was run. They need seniors. They need seniors on the school buses because I didn't know the children that were shiny like new pennies. I gravitated towards the troublemakers, so-called troublemakers. And I don't like to use that term because I found out that when I concentrated on them, there was always something at home going on. And I was able, when I would get on a new bus, they put me on the worst buses. When I would get on the bus, they told me, the children told me, this is our bus, you won't last. But it ended up at the end of the season, at the end of the year, I got a hug from all the troublemakers. Now, I don't like anybody saying, I don't want to work with children on that school bus in the system because who wants to be bothered with those kids? Those children belong to somebody. And I was surprised that some of the grandmothers that I got to meet were 35, 40 years old. So this is a child having a child. And what can they really teach these children, you know, except the clothing, the sneakers, all the wrong things. They asked me when I told them, they asked me how old I was. And I told them, I would give them my age. And they asked me if I knew Harriet Tubman. And if I knew, and I would say, oh yes, if we grew up together. And I would let them play music on the bus. I would listen to the music to see what music. But when you're in a setting like our school system, when those children get on that bus, they need to unwind. They're in a setting where they have to be quiet. They're there to learn. But on the way home, they have to unwind. And I truly miss it. And I wish I had made a difference, really. Now, but that's a hard question. I didn't face any of that. I didn't, and it existed, but I didn't face it because I think it was the way I was brought up. I gravitated towards, first of all, I was born in an integrated neighborhood. The Germans, Jews, everybody, it was a mixed neighborhood. So I was accustomed to being around all people. But first, color never mattered to us. It was the person. So, and I'm like that now. I'm not cliquish. I like meeting new people. I'll grab it out, as my husband used to say, I could talk, you'll talk to a dead rock. But it's about people. It's about people now. It always has been, it always will be, and I would advise children right now to get to know someone different than who you are accustomed to. Find out, because they're somebody's child too. They belong to somebody, and this would stop a lot of that. I guess I'm an old relic or something, but that would be my advice to a young person. Oh, I would like to have I enjoyed in 1979, I found out that I belonged to the largest connected black family in America. We were in Ebony Magazine and Jet. Went to Detroit and met 700 cousins. And we got the name, and it started from the McGriffs and the Vaughn. McGriff women married into the Vaughn family, and there's 8 names. And we're 3,500 now, and we have a reunion every year. The last reunion we had was in June in Atlanta. Next year, it will be in Oklahoma. So I always look forward to all my tomorrows.